Hi, everyone. Uh, Welcome to YubaSutterArts&Culture, Poetry Hour, Notes from the Field. My name is Marcelo Hernandez Castillo, and I am your Yuba and Sutter County's Poet Laureate. I am streaming today from uh, the St. Mary's campus, where I teach here out in the closer to the Bay Area in Moraga. And I am excited to be joining back for another month's installment of catching up on news in poetry. As the title suggests, poetry from the field, with some exciting news in the literary world around the Pulitzer Prizes. But first, I just wanted to mention a few things that are coming up from our programming here at YubaSutter Arts and Culture. We have coming up a Convergence Theater Company presenting Motherhood Out Loud, May 13th and May 14th. A Real Book Society, May 14th at 7. And the We Write Youth Workshop happening on the 17th. Up next, there will be a reception on the 19th. May is, really packed with programming. And the YubaSutter Improv Club on the 23rd and the 30th. And there's going to be an open mic poetry and prose virtual on June 1st. So already half of the month, almost half, no, about a third of the month through. And please, if you enjoy our programming, enjoy what YubaSutter Arts and Culture does for our community, please consider becoming a member. That really helps supports local artists, the local art scene, and to really allow this scene to thrive. Because as we know, the arts are crucial to all of us. And so, to the point of the stream, I'm recording this just a little bit before it goes live. But as of yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, some great news was announced that the incredible poet Carl Phillips was at last recognized for his artistic talents and contributions to the world of literature as one of the greatest poets, I think, alive today in the U.S., who has been such an integral part to many poets, both as a teacher, as through his poems. Carl Phillips just won the Pulitzer for yesterday. It was announced for his selected book of poems, Then the War and Selected Poems, which came out last year from FSG Books. And everybody in the literary world really just it went into a frenzy of adoration for this long overdue recognition for Carl Phillips's work, his beauty, and what he's really contributed to the contemporary American literary scene. And just throughout Twitter, the buzzing spheres of the literary world, it was congratulations and a no duh. This is who needed to win, and as I said, long overdue. So it was really exciting to see this poet who has been so important to many poets, including myself, get the recognition. And of course, this isn't without saying that he's received, wide acclaim for a good reason throughout his career. So just I was going to share a poem by him today and kind of talk a little bit about it, but just also, remind people that that poetry is alive and well. That Carl Phillips is currently writing poems. Is somebody who you can follow on Instagram or Twitter. He has a wonderful dog that that I love to see pictures of. And he teaches at Washington University in St. Louis, where he's been there for a while and has really cultivated that program with a few other really nationally acclaimed poets. Um, and he was for many years the judge for the one of the most prestigious poetry prizes in the country, the Yale Series of Younger Poets Prize. Um, and the poets he's chosen for as the winners during his tenure as judge for the Yale Younger have gone on themselves to be, integral poets in the contemporary literary scene. One of my favorites and one of my mentors too, Eduardo C. Corral, whose first book, Slow Lightning, was chosen by Carl Phillips in 2010 and published, I believe, in 2011. Yes. Um, by Yale University Press, Eduardo's second book, Guillotine, published by Grey Wolf. So you see traces of Carl Phillips kind of really everywhere. He was born in 1959 in the state of Washington, in Everett, Washington, and he got degrees from Harvard University, UMass, University of Massachusetts, and Boston University. And as I said, he teaches now at Washington University in St. Louis. But before he taught at the university level, he taught Latin at several high schools, and he has been, constantly producing new works and continually challenging his own aesthetics. In one of his books of criticism, The Art of Daring, Risk, Restlessness, and Imagination, published by Grey Wolf Press in their The Art of series, they tap different writers who've established with established careers to talk about. There's one of my favorites is, and one of the most popular, I think, is The Art of the Poetic Line. And Carl Phillips's book of criticism is The Art of Daring, Risk, Restlessness, and Imagination. And risk, I think, is something that really defines Carl Phillips, who continually reinvents himself with every book. And the thing that keeps coming again and again is the surprises in his language, in his lyricism. He's known to be a lyrical poet, one who puts a lyrical association, meaning he puts two images next to one another or two phrases that we wouldn't normally associate with each other. But because of their proximity, we've kind of learned to create a new kind of meaning that perhaps didn't exist there before. And for all of his work, like I said, he's been widely recognized. For his work, he has been nominated for the International Griffin Prize for his book Silvercrest, winner of the Los Angeles Times Prize for Poetry, which was Double Shadow. And really, I can go on and on. Finalist for the National Book Award. He was elected a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets in 2016. And, everything from Guggenheim Foundation Award and the Library of Congress fellowships. And award in literature from the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and most recently, the Pulitzer Prize. So I'm going to read a poem and then a poem of his that I read not too long ago, which appeared in a press called Sibling Rivalry Press. And this was a small chapbook, which I don't know if he has many other chapbooks, but he published this chapbook with this indie press that is based out of Arkansas, who I've collaborated with in one way or another as well. Brian Borland is the editor there. And he published a small chapbook, I believe, in 2017, 2018. And there's a poem in there called "And If I Fall," and this chapbook is called "Star Map with Action Figures." And again, his publication record is long and storied and extensive. Just to say a few of his most recent books, the one that just won the Pulitzer, then The War, and in 2020, Pale Colors in a Tall Field. In 2018, Wild is the Wind. Then before that, Reconnaissance. Before that, in 2013, Silvercrest. In 2011, Double Shadow. In 2009, Speak Low. And then before that, Quiver of Arrows, Selected Poems, 1986 to 2006. Before that, Writing Westward. Before that, The Rest of Love. Before that, Rock Harbor in 2002. And again, books of criticism and others. So I'm going to share my screen, and if I can do this now. This is the poem "And If I Fall" by Carl Phillips. There's a wonderful picture of him. And I believe I can still see all of this. Yes. All right. This poem is called "And If I Fall," which was originally published in the Virginia Quarterly Review, their fall 2018 issue, which is an issue that I picked up back in 2018. Yeah, I remember that issue well, which for any poets joining us, it's really important to get a feel for what's out there, to stay plugged in, to subscribe to literary magazines, not only to support them, but to know who is out there, to know who is being published, and to really know the contemporary scene, both in the U.S., translated works, or a magazine like World Literature Today out of Oklahoma, who publishes on an international scale. So this is his poem. There's this cathedral in my head I keep making from cricket song and dying, but rogue in spirit, still bamboo. Not making, I keep imagining it as if that were the same thing as making, and as if making might bring it back somehow, the real cathedral, in anger as in desire. It was everything, that cathedral, as if my body itself cathedral. I conduct my body with a cathedral's steadiness. I try to. I cathedral in desire, in anger. Light enters a cathedral the way persuasion fills a body. Light enters a cathedral the way persuasion fills a body. And so again, that was the poem "And If I Fall" by Carl Phillips, published originally in the Virginia Quarterly Reviewed, and then reappeared in Star Map with Action Figures. And there's an interesting essay or a review in the Los Angeles Review of Books by Richie Hoffman, in which he points to this poem and how it really came in the chapbook form, with a smaller indie press, and how it is a ars poetica, an imagining of the making of this cathedral of the mind, a cathedral of the body. He says a place of worship. This is Richard Hoffman. A place of worship and penetration of emotion and persuasion. This the memorable final couplet, which I didn't notice at first, turns on a simile and complicates what he says. He says, "Our notion of persuasion. Is it involuntary? Are we complicit or unwilling?" And I didn't notice the opening, the closing couplet at first, and that there was a difference in the fact that it's the same phrase, but it wasn't the same. But the comma, there's a comma appears, and I think this poem really captures what Carl Phillips does um, with his words. And he said in a article or in an interview in the Chronicle of Higher Education, he said, maybe it has to do with creating your own world. For some people, it's easier to create a world that you can rely on, that travels to you. And with his poems that deal with symbolism and um, this logic as it's being written about by Alfred Korn, in regards to his book In the Blood um, files. Alfred Korn says, words are used in associative rather than logical ways, constantly shifting ground and modulating context so that the central subject is never made baldly explicit. The poems, most of them, will support several interpretations, though no single interpretation perfectly. And I think this is it's a really important point to make about Carl Phillips, and I'll share the poem again here. Let me zoom in. There we go. And that what Carl Phillips has really gifted us is this imagination of making, is this imagination of turning a noun into a verb. And that this central image that we've been meditating on so far, that only exists in the imagination, though obviously it is a thing. It is a very solid thing. A cathedral made of stone. I can't think of anything that symbolizes something heavier, something weighty than a cathedral, both in the symbolic sense, but also in the literal sense, the amount of labor that it took to construct it, the timelessness of a cathedral, and also what it represents, the place of sacredness, a place of quietness, a place of worship. And to situate it as something in the mind, that it is through the imagining of this cathedral that we can perhaps bring it forth to life. And that transition, I think, is something that's really that I see in Carl Phillips's work. But this associative nature, which Troy Jollymore, who teaches actually here nearby, he teaches creative writing in English or actually he teaches at CSU Chico, just up north, who's a wonderful poet as well. He talks about Phillips's language as reminiscent of earlier poets like Ashbery, and also other poets. This is another reference to Phillips's work being in conversation with predecessors like Wallace Stevens, John Ashbery, T.S. Eliot, and Rilke, as Jenny Miller says. But this casting of associative rather than logical pairings make it really make it so that his meaning is always off center. It's kind of always tangential, and there's a central metaphor, this cathedral, but it's also used in different ways. Here we see this cathedral also being used both in as noun and verb, and we begin to see a playfulness with language that I really admire, that I hope always to try to attempt myself. He says again, in anger as in desire, it was everything, that cathedral, as if my body itself cathedral. I conduct my body with a cathedral steadiness. I cathedral. So it starts to kind of almost even lose its own solidness in being a weighted word, in being a word that we can say with all of our breath, and bordering almost on the absurdity of the word. That what would it mean to create an act of cathedral? Not to step into a cathedral, but to cathedral verb. And then the final couplet, that light enters a cathedral the way persuasion fills a body. And its repetition, light enters a cathedral, comma, the way persuasion fills a body. I don't know what to make of that comma, but it's something, again, of risk, of innovation, of remaking, and continually challenging himself to push the boundaries of language. I think we can all learn from Carl Phillips, and it is truly, truly just such a pleasure to, and I'm continually in awe with what he can do. So I really um, encourage everyone to go check him out, to check out the latest book again, which won this year's Pulitzer Prize, um, long overdue. Then the War and Selected Poems. And please join us back next month for another installment of happenings going on, notes from the field, in the field of poetry, in the field of literature, and who knows, we might see another um, wave of roar and applause and joy in October, when I believe it's in October, yes, when the Nobel Prizes are awarded. Prizes, you know, are indicators, and there's so much talent out there. Um, it's a embarrassment of riches, the amount of talent that is happening right now. So I encourage you to check out the wonderful Carl Phillips, his contemporaries, his students, and really the entire world that he has occupied. So again, thank you for joining me for Poetry Hour, Notes from the Field from Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture. I am Marcelo Hernandez Castillo, your Yuba and Sutter Poet Laureate. I will see you next month. Have a wonderful rest of your May. Check out the programming. Bye.